Welcome. We're so excited to see so many people here today. Warm welcome to MIPCOM Cannes and to this opening keynote session that really goes to the heart of our mission at MIPCOM Cannes this year, which is really helping bridge the gap to find new partnerships and opportunities between the creator economy and mainstream media. It's a subject we'll be revisiting with some of the world's biggest creators, platforms, producers, broadcasters and distributors on this and other stages across the market over the coming days. Now, this year sees YouTube's first major presence at MIPCOM in this 20th anniversary year, and we're absolutely thrilled to welcome them to the show. They're in Cannes with a clear aim to foster further collaborations and find shared successes with the global TV industry, be that by helping partners expand reach, deepen audience engagement, or unlock new monetization opportunities. In their words, we succeed only when our partners do. So this session explores the strategy behind one such partnership with BBC Studios. So sharing their approach and findings will be YouTube's Vice President of EMEA, Pedro Pina, with BBC Studios Senior Vice President Digital, Jasmine Dawson, and moderating proceedings will be media cartographer and MIPCOM stage regular, Evan Shapiro. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to MIPCOM 2025. Thank you guys for joining me here. As Lucy said, I think MIPCOM this year has gone through a pretty sizable shift, and the two of you are, I think, representative of that change. MIPCOM, I think, has become this year the crossroads, as Lucy said, between mainstream media and the creator economy. And today we're going to have a conversation with two people from each side of that equation, but I think it's also a case study in how collaboration between YouTube and a major provider of content can work. Before we get into the conversation, let's take a look at the results of how that collaboration works. Pedro, this is your first MIPCOM, right?
Yeah, it is my first.
Not just YouTube's first major presence here, it's your first visit to MIPCOM.
Yeah, so I've been in Cannes for a long time. Thank you, whomever is clapping. I have one fan. I've been coming to Cannes for Lions, for biggest advertising festival in the world, but first time we're at Cannes for a content conversation, so we're excited about it. Being here.
And Jasmine, you've been to MIPCOM before, but this is kind of a new position for the digital enterprises division of BBC Studios here as well. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I've been with BBC Studios 7 years. I've been at MIPCOM a couple of times, but this is definitely a new way of looking at things for us.
So I think this collaboration in particular, I want to debunk something. YouTube is not here to buy content, correct?
No, it's not.
And so just get that out of your head.
30% of people start leaving the room.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, hopefully you're entertaining enough to keep them around. But I think what this collaboration personifies is this new theory, and I want to run this by you, which is MIPCOM is this market where people come to buy and sell television, and they used to come up with a business model for an individual piece of IP, where I put together a coalition of funders, and I distribute my content all over the world. And I think there is some lament in the market that there are fewer buyers than there used to be, consolidation, and that the commissioners are not commissioning what they used to be at the same rate that they were. And these are the major challenges here. This is a case study on how there is a new class of buyer in the marketplace. And that class of buyer is the consumer themselves. It isn't a gatekeeper or a commissioner. It's going directly, building a direct-to-consumer business out of a major studio or production company business and using the gateways and the roadways of the creator economy to get to them. So that is the theory I think this represents, and I think this market is about mainstream media finding that new buyer class, that consumer that they can speak directly to. You are the head of that for one of the most traditional media companies on the face of the earth. How does that theory sound to you as a kind of person who has to find those audiences? How does that differ for BBC Studios in this market this year?
I think it's a big seismic shift for some. And I think an aha moment for some. For us, it's something that we've been doing for years. So for us, putting our audience obsession at the heart of everything we do is what makes our business work now. Being fandom first, and like for us, BBC Studios is proud to build the biggest fandoms across the world. And we know that we have to be able to do that where the audience are obsessed about being. And for us, that's why the partnership with YouTube is so critical, because that partnership is enabling and driving that creator-first mindset.
We'll talk about that a bit. So we're talking about one of the great franchises in television history here, Planet Earth, and you've really used that to find new audiences and new revenues for the studio. Can you just crack that open a little bit?
Yeah, so BBC Earth is one of our longest standing YouTube channels and a digital brand in its own right, but it very much started its home as a YouTube channel and bringing all of our amazing content from the Natural History Unit at BBC Studios together. So we've got Planet Earth, we've got Blue Planet, we've got some amazing new titles coming out from Walking with Dinosaurs to Mammals. There's so many things on there. It has got a rich history, but what we are excelling at is finding our fandoms across the world who care about this, who are finding their place to be able to engage with the content they love and the content that resonates with us. For us, that's not just about finding the fandoms where they live, but also understanding we can monetize those audiences, both on platform and off platform. So thinking about e-commerce for us is a really interesting opportunity because, you know, BBC Earth stands for everything that sort of goes along with saving our planet Earth, and sustainability is a strong thread of that. We want to be able to be at the forefront, and therefore that whole ecosystem for us, so whether it's our FAST channel on BBC Earth, our YouTube channel, or e-commerce, we're really looking at fandom driving that entire commercial ecosystem.
Well, and going back to the more traditional end of the business, you're also selling that show to major platforms.
Yep.
It's probably doing as well as a licensed product as it's ever done, correct?
Yep.
And the viewership, this is what I think most people don't understand. The viewership of the primary show, the documentaries, is going up across platforms as the fandom grows on YouTube and other platforms. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Defying kind of, you know, television gravity to a certain extent.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see this with so many of our IPs, is it's not a mutually exclusive game. Like, we're not sort of sacrificing anything. We're actually, it's incremental. And that is a really powerful conversation to have with some of our distribution partners, whether it's Bluey with Disney, or some of our BBC Earth titles with sort of PBS and other distributors. They understand that this is where the fandom grows, and it drives that incrementality.
And I think that kind of goes at some of the underlying mythologies that people have about YouTube as a platform. First and foremost, I think a lot of people, these are professionally produced documentaries, some of the best known pieces of intellectual property in the history of mankind. You are a gateway for that content to find new fans. It's a creator-led platform, but the professionally produced stuff can live by the creator rules and find new fandom. Also, I think there is this mythology that the end of the business is on YouTube, and that the only thing you care about as a platform is getting ad dollars out of it. But in reality, people are using YouTube to create a whole business. It is how you create a community, and then merchandise and live and tape sales and increased audience on television. That's as much in your best interest with your partners as revenues on the platform itself. Is that a fair assessment?
That's right, and that is the reason why we're here. This year is an important year for us. We are celebrating 20 years of existence of YouTube since the first video was uploaded, and ever since we created this incredible platform that apparently, if you have a great idea and if you have a a camera, you can have a global audience waiting for you. And just like that, we created what is now known as the creator economy, the original creator economy. So not only you can create content yourself, you can broadcast that content yourself to the entire world, and if you're successful and if you find an audience, we'll share the revenue with you. And by sharing the revenue with you, you as a creator, content creator, you actually can develop your own business. You can live off of that. And just like that, across the world, a bunch of YouTubers started to rise and create absolutely amazing content, and with that draw a ton of audience with them every single day. When the planet wakes up, half of the people connected to the internet connect to YouTube. So they consume YouTube content because that's where they know they can find amazing, absolutely outstanding content. And our content creators are the bloodstream of YouTube. However, we all know that there's amazing content creation happening around the world. The BBC is just one of the best, BBC Studios is one of the best content creators around the world, but there's tons. And we found out they actually congregate here every year. So we decided to be here this year to actually say, look, the same rule that applies to our content creators applies to anyone who creates content. Everyone could be a YouTuber. BBC Studios is one of our best YouTubers because you do produce amazing content. You get that content in front of the eyeballs around the world. You find smart and great ways of monetizing that. We share that success. We don't commission stuff, so we don't give money and then make profit back. What we do is, if you're successful, I'm successful. If you're not successful, I'm not successful. So it's the best combination ever. The audience will determine whether the content is good or not. We give you more than 20 ways of monetizing your content, so you can do your e-commerce, you can find very different ways, create your own paywall, use all sorts of creative formats. You can do short form, long form, podcasting, you can do live. So under one roof, your brand can actually reach several formats in different
And talk about where that rubber hits the road here for a second, because you're talking on...
Sorry, just to finish.
Go ahead.
And therefore, what really matters is it's not only YouTubers or influencers like it started to become known in the industry. It's actually every single content producer, content creator actually has a role, has a space on YouTube. And we were shy of reaching out and opening up our doors, and the reasons why we are here is actually to reach out to everyone and say, look, our platform is open to collaborate with you. It's open to do journeys similar to what BBC Studios is doing. We've been working with some broadcasters which are celebrating this week and some content producers, but we would like to do much, much more because there's amazing content that deserves to reach eyeballs around the world. And we just so wish that that happens as quickly as possible.
Sorry for trying to interrupt you there, but that's the nature of our relationship. I think that, obviously the growth in the creator economy up until this point has been driven in large part by creators. Yeah. They were the first to embrace them. They had no other outlet. They couldn't get on the major platforms necessarily. I believe that the biggest part of growth in the creator economy over the next 5 years is going to come from big studios and brands like this leaning in and bringing the wave, the tsunami of content that they've been holding back. If a Disney suddenly leaned into it the way that they could, the way that you are, imagine what would happen. But I do think it's hard to kind of theoretically imagine how this works. Talk a little bit more practically in the case study here about how your two teams work together. I know you're not necessarily day-to-day on BBC Studios, but you're very close to the team in the UK that is. How does it work? Do they come to you and walk you through new initiatives and things like that? Or how does that partnership work?
It's definitely a partnership. So for us, it's about being really open and transparent about our strategy, as well as thinking about what else we could do and understanding the YouTube roadmap. For us, the partnership becomes as to what tools can we tap into, what are the new things we can do to learn about our audience, to learn about what's working, so that we can make some big bets. For us, being able to, quite early on with Bluey, think about what can we commission that is going to be ancillary and drive sort of very much digital first shorts with Bluey, with BBC Earth, with Top Gear. That partnership has allowed us to do it because we've talked about whether we can A/B test. We can talk about sort of where we're going to find new audiences. Do we test it locally first? That's a weekly conversation, and for us...
That's a live conversation between your two organizations on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. It's an ongoing, and we will share strategy, ambitions, targets, and that's been a long-standing relationship. For us, that really allows us to be so obsessed by our audience together, which I think ultimately is what the creator economy is. That's what the creators were obsessed with our audience. They were testing every day. That's what we have leaned into.
That's right, and we organized with my teams, we organized a bunch of sessions that are going to happen between today and tomorrow, answering the question, how do I do this? Of course, it's done for a scaled audience, so it's not bespoke as we've been working together. But it can, for those who are making their first steps on YouTube, it's a great starting point. It's also what was amazing about BBC Studios is that the best way to go about this is to just be adventurous, to risk, to try things. Not everything works. The one amazing thing about YouTube is that there's no cookie cutter solution. A lot of people come to me and say, how do I make sure that I reach X amount of million views or watch time in 5 days? I mean, there's no easy answer to that. There is a lot of experimentation you have to do. There's a lot of risk taking that you have to make, and together we did that very, very well. This platform, you need to understand really well your audience. I always say to people, you know, if you want to be successful on YouTube, hire YouTubers as well, as in literally content creators. They understand the pulse of the platform. They understand how it works really, really well. They can give you insights on how to make the most out of the platform. But once you start rolling, then it's a tremendous success. And the roaring success of YouTube, of BBC Studios is just absolutely amazing.
Thank you. I completely agree with the hiring of creators. I think there is a real big difference between a creator that thinks about their channel 24/7 and the digital teams that sit on the other side. For us, hiring creators who are now in leadership positions within my team, as well as having a formal program called Creators in Residence, which is bringing in creators that get to have the most phenomenal access to our incredible storytellers, but also we're learning from each other, and that's really important. And we believe that we have found our fandoms and have cracked that code. Part of that is to do with something that we really made a big bet on a couple of years ago, which is having our own partner sales team. And we did that hand in hand with YouTube, understanding what was working on YouTube sales, but actually what could we do so that we have social first salespeople that are out there who understand our content, who understand how YouTube works, and then can work very closely with the advertiser.
Well, so go ahead.
No, just one thing that you and I were talking about, I don't know, a week ago or something. One of the things that is a misnomer about saying that YouTube is a distribution platform is that typically people look at distribution platforms from a broadcasting standpoint. And what that means is, I have a piece of content right now. YouTube reaches I don't know how many million people, so I'm just going to push the content and somehow magically it shows up in front of people on the other side. And that's just not how it works. So it's not a push mechanism anymore, it's a pull mechanism, which means that's why hiring YouTube creators is so important, because they understand fundamentally that this is about curating, taking care of your fandom, you know, feeding your fandom what they need in order for them to start pulling their audience. And the moment the audience starts reacting, the famous algorithm starts delivering the content. I have ongoing conversations with content producers who say, you know, Pedro, what do we need to do? How do I know the algorithm? How do I can trick the algorithm in order to deliver that? The only way to trick the algorithm is take care of your audience, understand your audience very well. If you understand your audience, the content will find the reach, and the reach will happen. And this is what BBC Studios understood very, very well. And you know, BBC Studio has been around for a long, long time, much longer than YouTube, in fact. And how did you manage to move from a push to a pull and understand that very, very well, and how you are so successful on YouTube, to me is just
and that's really the crux of the change that we're looking at here. When I say that there's a new class of buyer out there and they are the consumer, it's because they're choosing to spend their time and their money on content on various social platforms, YouTube included, but obviously there are others out there who might go nameless right now. And in particular, I talk about YouTube a lot because YouTube is the first social platform to come to the television, but it will not be the last. There will be others that come to the TV. So the infrastructure you build for this platform today will pay you dividends forever. But it isn't easy as just turning it on and then audiences come. I mean, you had to hire creators who are now, I think that may have gotten glossed over a little bit, are in leadership positions, executive positions at your company, which I can imagine makes some in this audience feel a little uncomfortable, is giving the hands to the executive washroom to creators. So what the cultural shift that had to come, talk about that a little bit. Also talk about how you shifted from a traditional media mindset, traditional KPIs, to a brand new set of KPIs. And how was that for you? Creating change inside an organization as traditional as BBC. How do you get creators on staff? How do you change the mindset from tape sales to fandom?
Yeah, with some grit and grace, because ultimately it's been an incredible legacy that the BBC have forged, but understanding where there's going to be common ground, because it is a seismic shift to kind of talk about, actually, let's not chase reach, let's not sort of really place so much emphasis on that sort of scale number. Let's really understand why our audiences care. Like, what is that affinity metric for us? And to find the common ground in audience obsession and understanding that our fandom and other audience that truly care about us is where that common ground is. And then understanding how to bring people on the journey with you, okay? If our audience obsession is where we find that common ground, how are we going to make sure that they care about us in 5 years? And like, we don't go further than that, because ultimately so much can change in 5 years, but understanding what that fandom can do for us. How can it make sure that our ecosystem survives and thrives?
It's a new business. It's a whole new business for you, right?
It's a whole new business for us, and it allows us to be able to not only think about how digital can really lean into this fandom, they talk back. Like, we talk about that we've got incredible CTV figures on YouTube, you know, in the high 70s. But it's different. They talk back. It's a community, and they engage and educate each other, and they engage and educate about other things that we sell. So for us, it is about understanding that content ecosystem and the commercial ecosystem go hand in hand.
And it's the test and learn. It does to me that adopting, we're going to try this out. If it doesn't work, we're going to learn from it. If it does work, we're going to lean into it. That's one of the big lessons I think traditional media has to adapt to in the digital era, in this digital ecosystem. But what are some of the, she talked about bringing people along with grace and grit internally there. Yours is an external conversation. You're here for the first time at MIPCOM. What are some of the challenges and hurdles that you have to get over in communicating to, it's working for you, right? It's working quite well for you.
Yes.
And there are other big broadcasting commercial arms, ZDF Studios here, ITV Studios, who have had similar experiences. But there is still a lag for these big brands to adopt to what is a whole new marketplace for them. What do you think those challenges are, and how do you overcome them?
So it's the mind shift that we were talking about, and I mean, Jasmine, you just described it so well. This idea of ongoing feedback is new. In the old world, you would commission a piece of production or a piece of content. You go off and you do this for a month, 3 months, 6 months, come back, you know, put the reels, distribute it, reach an audience, and that's about it. Add YouTube, what you do see is not only you get a lot of feedback, qualitative feedback. Your fans will tell you what they think. They give you hints of what is working and what not working. And you literally have video by video, second by second feedback. Data feedback. There's a mythology, you and I talked about this before, there's a mythology that, you know, these big tech groups or, you know, YouTube does not share data. We share a ton of data. I mean, if you put on your channel, all your videos and on your channels, you can have a reading video by video of how much your audience is reacting.
Yeah, I work with a lot of the measurement people around the world, and the data you get from YouTube is much more specific and actionable often than you're going to get
it's very
from
humbling as
third
well, because the content producers will get, YouTubers don't mind, but the content producers will get feedback second by second of what's working and what's not working. If you can talk to and spend time, which I recommend a lot of people if you haven't to do so, if you spend time with YouTubers, they will tell you they are data scientists, literally. When they switch off the camera, they become data scientists. They know their YouTube channels from inside out, from a data perspective, second by second, video by video, what worked, what didn't work. I I've had conversations with YouTube fashion YouTubers who can tell you mascara never works on Thursday mornings, and I've tried to push mascaras every single day of the week, and somehow Thursday never works. They are data driven. So
and that's one of the reasons why hiring those natives internally are so important, because they read the pulse in real time. They understand the language in a way that those who are not native, like myself, cannot.
100%. So meeting the users where they are is actually listening to them. And listening to them in real time as you are producing the content and as you are making that content available. And the feedback loop now happens on a per minute and per day basis. And if you manage to do that very, very well, the capacity of production that is in this room is just unbelievable and can be so much more successful.
Well, so we only have a minute left, so I want to ask one last question. You're a big company. You're $1 billion studio. Right? One of the biggest, most traditional companies out there. Not everybody in this audience is. What's a good takeaway for someone who may not be at that scale, who's a mid-sized production company or a solo producer? What's something that you've learned that is actionable today that they can take away in working with YouTube?
I would say two things. I would say working with YouTube and sort of understanding what that partnership looks like is about understanding your metrics. Like, get away from thinking about views, really focus on that affinity and what that means for you. That is watch time for us, and really understanding also how our audience play with our brand. So look at your UGC. The second thing I would say is come talk to us. We know how to make and we know how to sell. We have an incredible content studio that can make new content, but also we know how to sell content in this space.
That's a new thing. You've adapted into an agency space here. You're now offering your services in this space as a white label product, yeah?
Exactly. And we think, we are what we believe is sort of world-class in understanding how to build fandom, but also commercialize that fandom. We have clients such as that we've gone public with that, and sort of that we are repping Akamar, who produce Bing, the children's show, and we have lots more announcements to come this year, which we're really excited about.
Cool. Thank you for mentioning that. With the time that we don't have left, what would be the one big piece of advice you would give to everybody who has intellectual property that they want to reach an audience?
So I'll say three things, not one, but three. One, chances are the audience you'll find on YouTube is audience that you're not reaching right now through the ways you are using today. So think of us as complementing the journey that you are making. That's the first one. The second one is experiment, experiment, experiment. Throw yourselves into YouTube. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, shut it down. It's fine. No one will care. But it is a way to expand your expertise in digital and experiment with this amazing platform. And number three, remember, our business with your content is a shared successful business. We won't be successful if you're not successful. So it depends on the fact, it depends on your ability for your content to reach the audience and delight your audience, for you to monetize and make your business, and therefore us making a cut for that. And just experiment as much as possible. Our doors are open and we're willing to talk to everyone.
And if these two partners can succeed this way, I think it's a great case study to follow for everybody out there. This is a great intersection at MIPCOM to experiment and try that stuff. So while you're here and you're colliding into people from the creator economy or mainstream media, ask around, dig in, experiment. Thanks so much, guys. This was a great conversation. I wish we had more time. Thank you. See you on the Quasette.